Hello, everyone. Let me get my camera together. Hope everyone's doing great this evening. Oh, boy. Y'all come on in and have a seat. Make sure you liking the live and sharing. Okay, y'all. So this is the test here. So as Miss Trish said, you can't even see the people on there. All right, so this may not be the winner here, guys. So let me go to the next one. So we got this one. Tell me what y'all think. Boom. Yeah, because see the one that had the hand in it and the people, they would be right up under here and you couldn't see them. So, I mean, here we go. We go with this one. Y'all come on in, tap that screen. Welcome. The blue clashes. Okay, so Thickums, yeah, you might want to change the blue in the circle, maybe. I don't know. Y'all see what my shirt say? Nope, not today. This is my sentiments all year long. Okay, every day is nope, not today. Okay, so this is where I'm at today and every day. But welcome in. Y'all make sure that y'all tap the screen. Make sure you share this out. Like I said, the best way to do it is to hold down the hostess. You hold down the host screen, and when the names come up, you share it out. Patella to run for Sullivan in Alaska. I'm not sure about that one. Not a planner. Exactly, Miss Maria. Nope, not today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Maybe in 2026. Once we do this blue tsunami, then maybe I'll have some time. Other than that, not today, not tomorrow, not next week. Y'all, this evening we are so excited. I cannot wait. We got something in store for everyone. So if you are here now, make sure you listen up, stay tuned so you can hear what we got coming up. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Let me see here. Here we go. I'm inviting you up, sir. At least I'm trying to. All right. Hello, Julian.
How's it going? Thank you for having me.
All right. Are you able to cut your camera on?
Yep, there we are.
Have you done this before? No. Make sure you hit save. All righty. Now, were you given a background?
I was, and I hit save right before you invited me.
Okay. So click the camera option again.
Okay.
And that's going to bring up your choices, or when you scroll over to the green screen, you can click on the background picture. and then hit save, and it should save it.
Okay, let's try it again.
I'm gonna get this thing together, y'all. Y'all, this is probably one of the easiest pictures I've seen. South Dakota, U.S. Senate. Like, clear. That's awesome. There you go.
All right.
That's my little things right there.
We gonna make it work, y'all. We gonna make it work.
Okay, we cooking with grease now. All right, y'all. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are talking today with Mr. Julian, and I'm going to try because I lived in Louisiana for about 15 years, so I know Beau is Beau. So Beaudion.
Beaudion.
See, and I knew that DIO was going to be something else too. All right, DION, Beaudion. All right.
That's
So
right.
we are talking to Mr. Julian Beaudion today, and he is running for U.S. Senate out of South Dakota. Don't know too much about South Dakota, but we're going to learn today. We
That's
are
right.
going to learn today. So, Julian, I'm gonna tell you and remind everyone else if they don't know who OVC is. OVC is a nonpartisan coalition of citizens from diverse states and backgrounds, united by a shared commitment to empower voters, promoting candidates who stand for integrity, inclusion, and accountability in the upcoming elections. Formed by a collective of educators, veterans, small business owners, students, and community advocates, our vote count represents the strength of unity across geography, race, and ideology. While our stories are different, our mission is the same: to ensure that every voice is heard and every vote truly counts. Through voter education, candidate outreach, and community engagement, we support leaders who are ready to serve the people, not special interests. By working across state lines and elevating local and national issues, we aim to increase voter turnout, inform public dialogue, and build momentum for lasting change. Our vote count is more than a name. It's a promise. It's a movement and a rallying cry for democracy. Together, we are shaping a future one informed vote at a time. So thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to give y'all a little rundown on what I've learned about Julian. He is 39 years old. He is a husband, a father of 3 girls, and an owner of a family restaurant, which was called Crawdaddy or
Ooh, close. Swamp Daddies.
Swamp Daddies, Cajun restaurant. And he's originally from Alexandria, Virginia. Louisiana, not Alexandria, Virginia. That's where I had my first home. Alexandria, Louisiana. He is the youngest of 6 children, born to a nurse and a high school math teacher. And he also played the violin, y'all. Julian served more than 13 years as South Dakota State Trooper, focusing on public safety, leadership, and building trust between law enforcement and the community. After his service as the state trooper, he founded the HUB SD. It's a nonprofit organization that supports tribal entrepreneurs and small business professionals. While where he is currently serving as the executive director. He is also president of Juneteenth Sussex Falls, vice president of his local NAACP chapter, and an Obama Foundation leader. Did I miss anything, Julian, that you would like to tell us about?
Well, it's Black History Month, so one of those things that's near and dear to my heart is my work with the South Dakota African American History Museum, and so for a period of time, I did also serve as the executive director for the State African American History Museum, and I was also the nominee for U.S. Marshal for the state of South Dakota under the Biden administration.
Oh, awesome. Now, Julian, your state, to say the least, is 80% white.
Yes. More than 80% for sure.
More than 80%. What made you want to run as for a senator of this state?
I tell people I was tricked into politics.
Okay.
I found myself really following my parents' footsteps in service. As you mentioned, my mom is a retired nurse. She was a nurse with the VA, and veterans are really near and dear, of course, to my entire family's heart. My sister followed directly in her footsteps by becoming a nurse at the VA. But then my father, before he passed away, was an educator, a math teacher. And
Uh-oh. We lost you. You muted. There we go. We got you
did my
back.
did my sound go out on you?
It did, but it's okay.
Oh, I can't hear you though.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. I couldn't hear you.
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
No,
I
I
can hear
can't.
you. I can hear you. I'm going to keep
Well,
talking and let me know when you can hear me. I'm going to keep talking and let me know when you can hear me. Let me do a mute.
can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Let's see.
Yeah, he might have got a call, Misty. If he got a call, then what
Drop and
should
come
he
back.
do?
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
drop, and then do I need to
Okay.
receive another invite?
Yes, I'll send it back.
Okay.
All right. Hold on. All right, y'all. Hold on. Just a few little technical difficulties. We know how this TikTok stuff be. So send that back out there. All right. There we go. We got you back.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Okay,
Okay,
let's turn
great.
that video back on.
All right. Perfect.
As I get this video up, I'll say one thing that my grandmother used to tell me all the time: the devil's at work, but we're not gonna let him win.
Amen.
Okay, we are back.
Yeah, except
um,
you gotta pick the picture one more time and hit save again. There we go. You had it right there. Yep.
there we go. All right.
All right.
Um,
So what your
so
grandmother said, and you said something about your mom. Your mom was a nurse, and she did something for you. Well, go ahead.
yeah. So my mom was a retired nurse with the VA, and then of course my father was a math teacher. So really, what I saw growing up, outside of just them being dedicated to their craft, was I saw a life of service from both of them, and I knew I wanted to do something. My goal originally was to go into the military. I was in the ROTC program in high school and did some service also in college, and then I failed my physical, and so that whole dream of going into the military was completely out the window for me. Um, by accident, I was working at a bank, paying my way through college, and one day we had to be shut down for a situation, and here in South Dakota, and the person who came and shut us down was a state trooper, but not just any not just any state trooper. It was the only black state trooper in this entire state.
Right.
Um, that was the very first time I was treated with any type of kindness or respect from a law enforcement officer. And it's very true what they say: a first impression is a lasting impression. The very next day, I went and I said, "This guy reminds me of something that I wanted to do." Now, I went and applied to be a state trooper, spent 13 and a half years in uniform, but I eventually found out that he was in the military, which is why he reminded me of what I wanted in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was tricked into law enforcement, and then as I began my career, I started to make build relationships with folks across the state. One being our former U.S. attorney, his name was Randy Seiler, and Randy said, "Hey, I see the work that you're doing, with some different nonprofits. Why don't you come and lead the state effort for some community engagement building with the Obama administration?" And so I did that in the tri-state region. And from there, Randy tricked me again and said, "You're doing great work with this community engagement initiative. Why don't you run for city council?" So then I ran for city council. And then from there, I was hooked, to be honest with you, and not necessarily hooked on politics, but hooked on seeing how policy shape people's lives.
Yes.
And I'll be completely honest with you by saying I didn't see myself in this, in this role
Right.
before, not even when I was running for city council. But as soon as I started seeing the impact on people's lives through policy and how I could be a part of shaping that, that opened my eyes to a different way of service. And so I continued on in my journey. And of course, now I'm running for the U.S. Senate.
All right. Uh-oh. All right. I got it. I'm trying to get my phone together. All right. Well, that sounds like, that I used to keep saying trick, but I don't feel like you was tricked. You was called. You was called for both of those things. So it's very important that, as much as I don't want to say this, the outlook on Black society isn't always good. So it's always important to see someone in a position that we consider to be good that looks like us. Always, right? So
Yeah.
we like to do a little icebreaker, and my icebreaker for you, in the spirit of Black History Month, give me your favorite Black historical person.
Shirley Chisholm. That's an easy one for me. Shirley Chisholm. Um,
What did she
not
do?
just not just groundbreaking to say she was the first Black woman elected to Congress, but when we talk, first off, Black women in general. Let's just classify the work that Black women in general do in politics. Um, a close second for me would be Angela Rye
Okay.
and the work that Angela is doing currently in politics. Starting off with the Congressional Black Caucus, and now in the space that her and Andrew Gillum are in with podcasting and utilizing their voice in the digital era, it is opening up so many doors for people like myself who, don't have a lot of money behind their campaign, but are able to get on platforms such as this one, and still have our voices be heard. Redirecting that back to Shirley Chisholm, nobody wanted Shirley Chisholm to speak at
Right.
all, right? Not just run. Nobody wanted her to have a voice, period.
Yeah.
And the way she kicked in the door, and her campaign statement when she ran was, if no one's going to give me a seat at the table, I'll bring a folding chair, right? She made her way in those doors. She kicked down those doors, and that's something that I admire, not just with her, but also, like I said, seeing some of those things right now with Angela Ryan, the work that she's doing. So
I mean, she probably definitely inspired her. If it wasn't for Shirley, you don't have Angela. Absolutely.
absolutely.
All right, so we're going to jump right into our format today. And the way this goes is I'm going to ask you a series of questions. We have 5 topics to go through. In between those 5 topics, I'm going to do what's called a rapid fire. We're going to try to get 2 in. One is going to be more political. The other one is going to be a little more fun. But we're going to start off with our first category of economy. So South Dakota's economy depends a lot on agriculture, with 90% of it being farmland. What can you do in the Senate to secure this way of life and make sure farmers benefit?
Yeah. So one of the things I think we have to make sure that we restructure is the introduction of farm bills, and that not just helps South Dakota, but that helps farmers across the entire nation. What we see right now is the opportunity for senators to well, really anyone in Congress, to introduce a farm bill when their state needs it. We don't see anything nationally recognized to say I'll put it in context of like our voting rights bill. Every 20 years, that voting rights bill needs to be revisited, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
we can continue on having the rights that have been secured by our forefathers. And so I actually think that we should do the same or something very similar with our farm bill. Every 5 to 10 years, we should be revisiting, and it should be a requirement to revisit what a farm bill looks like. And one thing that does is it makes sure that you have the securities that are necessary for those pricing and the rates to either stay the same or increase or decrease, depending on, of course, where our economy is at the time. But it also protects farmers who are indigenous, and it protects black farmers. We have to also remember, especially in this state, that indigenous farmland, just the farmland, not the farm owners, but the farmland, accounts for about 60% of all farms in our state.
Oh, wow.
Now, those farmers are not indigenous farmers. They are white farmers who live on indigenous land who farm that land. And the way we got to that point is because we didn't have anything protecting those indigenous farmers from losing their land. And so I believe if we have anything, something in place, concrete in place to say it's a requirement for us to revisit that and provide protections for the next 5 to 10 years, every 5 to 10 years, that actually is very helpful, not just to South Dakota farmers, but farmers in general.
Well, do the indigenous people benefit from the farmland?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We all benefit. We all benefit technically from it. I will say though, there's less benefit to indigenous folks if you're talking about, farmers who farm corn in this area for ethanol production,
Okay.
because those are now you're talking less of the family farms and more of the corporate farms, and so those
But
corporate
they're still
farms
on
have taken over.
indigenous land.
They are still on indigenous land, absolutely.
Okay.
And to be quite honest with you, we're all on indigenous land.
I will not disagree with you on that, sir. I would not disagree. So yes, that just makes me sad. That the corporations are benefiting from the
But
land.
you know what? It should make us sad. It should make us take a second look at things, which is why, again, I believe we should be taking a second look at what a farm bill looks like every 5 to 10 years. We shouldn't be putting any of our farmers in this predicament. Farm is definitely top of the list when it comes to our economy, but so many states around our country are in the same situation.
Absolutely. Well, as a small business owner yourself, what changes would you push for in Washington to make it easier for South Dakota entrepreneurs and family businesses to start, grow, and stay competitive?
I think what we have to do is actually allow our states to reform their tourism taxes. Tourism is actually number 2 when it comes to economic growth or economic impact in the state of South Dakota. We have, a motorcycle rally every year called Sturgis. And what happens is when you go to Sturgis, there's an increase in tax revenue just because obviously that town grows in population just because of the rally. As a matter of fact, every year it grows from a town of about 13,000 people to about 450,000 to 500,000 people because of the rally. That's a huge economic growth impact for our state. However, if we honed in on what reforming tourism tax look like, that is a tourist attraction in and of itself, but Sturgis is not considered a tourist town. Right. Now, Rapid City is, but if we start to provide some tourism dollars, that actually opens up more opportunities for small business grants. It opens up opportunity for more businesses to travel across the country to set up temporary shops in a place called Sturgis, and it removes red tape while still giving them opportunity.
Yeah. Now, Sturgis is the place that we heard about people that y'all have the bike fair, week or whatever, something there.
Yeah. It's actually a 2-week time frame. There's what we call the pre-rally of Sturgis, where people just start to flood in, and then there's the rally itself, where you have all of your entertainment and stuff come in that week. So.
Yeah, that place got a lot of press all about 5 years ago or so, something like that. I don't know. Or maybe it was a little longer. I don't know. But yeah, I definitely remember that place. Now, Sussex Falls and Rapid City, as you said, are going quickly, but the smaller communities are struggling. How would you use federal resources to make sure that the economic growth? Okay, you kind of said this is how we're going to just redo the tourism tax, and that should benefit everybody, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a 1A, and so Sioux Falls is how you pronounce it, by the way.
Sioux.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Sioux tribe, the Sioux Nation is where we reside, and so I think yes, tourism tax is one mechanism in which we can help small businesses. The other way is going back to talking about agriculture and farming. Most people, even in this state, don't realize that those small family-owned farms are still small businesses.
Right.
And so we have to also be able to provide protection and remove red tape for them, not just to grow and develop in their agriculture, but also we have to provide opportunities for them to grow with the use of technology and AI. So data centers, I'm sure everywhere in this country, people are talking about data centers right now. South Dakota is no different.
And we're
Data
gonna get
centers
to
come.
that.
So data centers come with a whole lot of issues by itself. But I think it's actually our responsibility, especially as leaders across the state, to make sure that if we are growing and removing that red tape for our agriculture partners in the state to be successful, we need to make sure that they are at the table along with our indigenous brothers and sisters to say they have to be the ones making the decision, because every day they're the ones caring for this land.
Indeed, indeed. Now, I want to remind everyone that if you have a question for Julian, please request up. Just hit the multi-guest request at the bottom there. We will bring you up on the panel and you can ask him directly. I often find that to be the easiest thing to do, because you can ask your question the way that you intended it and maybe even expound on it if necessary. But if not, just like right now, we have a question in the chat. You could put it in there. Can you talk about how law enforcement will be held accountable for use of force on BIPOC people?
Yeah, and which is a great question, by the way. I don't think we have seen what real accountability looks like. So I think the first thing we need to do is we make sure that we classify that term by itself, accountability. The second thing is and many people don't know this, we have to make sure that there is an actual definition of a hate crime on the federal level. So when we have these hate crimes that are done by whether it's state law enforcement or federal law enforcement, or what we perceive to be a hate crime, I should say, that goes directly to the U.S. Attorney's Office. However, each state has the ability to classify what their definition of a hate crime is. I think that needs to be federalized, where we have one definition of what a hate crime is, and we have to be really intentional about not just including the term BIPOC. We have to be intentional about what Black hate is, what hate is towards our LGBTQ plus friends, what hate is towards indigenous folks, what hate is towards Jewish folks, so on and so forth. Intentionality is what actually breeds success when you're talking about changing these types of policies. But the very first thing is you have to call a spade a spade. So we have to know what hate is federally before we actually even talk about accountability.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to end up jumping around a little bit, because let's go into the justice system. This is one of my topics. Many rural counties there rely on small sheriff's departments, which limit staff with limited staffing and resources. How would you work to secure federal support to help local law enforcement improve response times and community safety?
One of the things that I'd like to see from our Chiefs and Sheriffs Association is actually a pledge first. Before we talk about giving federal dollars to any of these agencies, then we have to have a pledge back to the people first. The number one thing that any law enforcement officer should be in the job for is to make sure we're protecting and serving the people. And we don't see that across our nation right now, especially explicitly with the things that we're seeing out in Minneapolis with ICE and federal law enforcement officers. And so the organizations have to pledge first that they will protect the people. And what that pledge looks like, I don't know. I think we work together as elected officials, as, of course, the Chiefs and Sheriffs Association. But most importantly, we work together to bring the voices of the community to the table to say what that pledge looks like before they even qualify for those federal dollars. Now, once they do that, I think there needs to be a mechanism in place, going back to the previous question, to hold them accountable to what they said they were going to do. I'm a big proponent of giving someone the opportunity to say what you're going to do for me or with me, and then holding you accountable to the words that you say. And that's no different than law enforcement. I did the same thing when I was in uniform. both on the state side and the federal side, which is, what has propelled me to the position in which I am today. And I expect no different from the law enforcement officers that are in uniform right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, let's talk about one of the things you all have to police. Okay, so Native Americans make up roughly 9% of South Dakota's population, yet some reservation counties face poverty rates of above 40%. This has caused substantial or at least a substance abuse to rise. So something we might want to keep an eye on now before it gets out of hand. What would you prioritize in Congress to decrease substance tracking in South Dakota? And I use the word substance for a reason, because you can't say the drugs word. So what would you prioritize in Congress to decrease the trafficking?
I think the first thing we should look at is where those hotspots are, the poorest communities are. And I can pinpoint one community right off the bat, which is actually the poorest county in this entire country, is our Pine Ridge Reservation. But it's poor, in my opinion, and in the opinions of several indigenous activists across the state, for one reason and one reason only. So before I give you that direct answer, let me go back to the early 60s, when we talked about the intentionality of the government to remove Black men from the home so that families could qualify for government subsidies. That is something very similar that's happening as we speak, without giving them the subsidies that they deserve. So the highest incarceration rate, not just in the country, but in the entire world, of women is right here in South Dakota, because we incarcerate Native American women at a higher rate than any country in the world. And so we have to address that first, and that high rate comes from the Pine Ridge Reservation. And as soon as you start removing grandmothers and mothers and aunties from the home, you lose the entire family structure. Yes, the family is really important to have, a father or a male figure in the household. But let me just point back to my own life experience. I would be absolutely nothing if it wasn't for my aunts, if it wasn't for my grandmother stepping up when my mom was having issues, if it wasn't for my mother and my sister, I would be nothing. And so I understand how important of a role a woman plays in our family structure, and indigenous folks are no different. So we have to hit that first.
Okay. This is a little off a subject, but you seem like a very smart man. So I kind of just want to get your opinion about it. So I've heard a lot about that. People feel like Black people and white people should have stayed segregated. And that we should have never integrated, basically. And I tend to think that we kind of can guess how this would have turned out with the fact that we have the reservations. While they are separated or have their own land, their own society, their own everything, they still in some points have to rely on the federal government of these here United States. And yet they're not thriving. Am I wrong in that?
Well, I think there's some nuances to that, to be honest with you. And one of the things that I would point to is the treaties provided to our indigenous friends from our government, and how our government has broken many, if not all, of those treaties to some accord. And I also should remind everyone too that, even during segregation, we still had indigenous folks living on reservations. That's something that predates, the talk of desegregation for us. And so when you talk about maybe the comparison, I don't know if that is completely a fair and accurate comparison, just because they do have governmental treaties that have been broken. We have never had any promises from our government to take care of us, which is a problem in and of itself.
Right.
So I think it's a completely different conversation that we should be having.
Understood. As a U.S. Marshal nominee, how much influence should federal law enforcement have in our states?
It depends on what level of federal law enforcement we're talking about, because there's, just like You have, state troopers and the sheriff's office and local PD. You have U.S. Marshals. You have, the FBI. You have ICE and Border Patrol. Border Patrol, excuse me. Those are all classified as federal law enforcement officers. I think there, and I'm speaking from personal experience, obviously, but I think that there is a place for immigration services in our country. I think there's also a place for border security in our country. I think we'd be crazy and irresponsible as a government if we
I
did not
agree.
try to protect our homeland. Now, there's a caveat to that. I go back to saying exactly what I said before. They should also have a responsibility in treating people humanely. And what we see right now is certainly not treating people as human beings. And so there has to be some accountability to the things that we require as citizens. And one of those things is, of course, being responsible in protecting our border. Now, ICE and Border Patrol have no reason to be in a state like Minnesota because that's nowhere near the border. So we have to make sure that they are taking care of their responsibilities, and they also are protecting their families at the same time.
Absolutely. All right. So again, if anyone have any questions for Julian Bo,
Go ahead, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Beaudion.
Beaudion. It was the end that was kicking my butt. Mr. Julian Beaudion, please request up, ask him your questions. If not, you could put them in the chat and I will post them to him. So we are going to go into what I call the rapid fire. Like I said, the first ones are going to be political. So let me make sure I got that. I wrote them down. What did I do with them though? Y'all, I'm together, y'all. I'm together. Don't fuss at me, though. Okay. I had turned my page to what we're doing later. Okay, here we go. Education funding. Teachers or tech first?
Oh, I know this is rapid fire. Teachers. There is no tech without teachers.
Absolutely. Immigration policy. Pathway or protection first?
Pathway.
Okay. Is universal health care possible?
Absolutely.
Social media regulations. Do we want to strengthen them or loosen them?
Strengthen them.
All right. What do you think minimum wage should be?
I think it should be a living wage, not minimum wage, and I think it depends on each state.
There should not be a federal.
Should not be a federal. Each state is different. It's different for me to live in South Dakota than it is in New York.
But the federal is to make sure that the states do not go below this minimum.
I think there might be a place for an oversight committee, a congressional oversight committee when it comes to that, but I don't think we should have a minimum wage. I think we should have a livable wage. And again, I think that's different per state.
Okay. Who gives better advice, your team or your mom?
Oh, my mom. Yeah.
Political advice?
My mom is right on everything. I will never.
I know that's right. Good answer. Good answer. One word you would like to add to the Constitution?
Diversity.
That's a great word. Economy or social injustice? Which needs fixing first?
Social injustice.
Social injustice. All right, y'all. Y'all got the rapid fire answers there. Do with it what you will. All right. So again, you can request up if you have any questions for Julian. If you don't, just make sure you're using them fingers for something other than pointing at people and tap that screen. And finish up the goals. Make sure you you give some presents over there. And we are going to go into healthcare. Okay. So first thing, having dealt with addiction in your personal life, growing up, as I researched, how important is it that we increase insurance coverage for mental health and recovery programs? And what steps are necessary to ensure access to these services?
So one of the things that I have been able to do in my professional career is I've had the privilege of serving on many different boards of directors, and currently I'm on the board of directors of an organization here in South Dakota called Face It Together. And Face It Together is addiction counseling specialists, but they do things a little bit different to where they assign you directly with a mentor. And on top of that, and in many spaces they call them sponsors, but we call them mentors. And in addition to that, they assign a mentor or a sponsor to a family member or a supporter. And I think that's really important when you talk about what healthcare overall and holistically looks like or should look like.
Mm-hmm.
This entire thing, when you talk about mental health, should be a holistic approach. Don't just treat the symptoms, don't just treat the person, treat the family as well so that they know how to take care of the individual properly. And so I believe that there needs to be a space in our healthcare system designed for family medicine versus just individual medicine. And quite honestly, I plan on making that a part of my goal going into the United States Senate when I have the opportunity to introduce a bill for universal health care, because I do also think that that is a human right and we should all have health care. But as long as that health care is not what we currently see, because it doesn't go far enough, it has to be able to include everyone holistically.
All right. Well, give us a little bit of it without giving away all your secrets and all your plans, because then somebody might try to take it. But give us a little bit of what that might look like.
If they take it, I've done my job. That's for sure. Because the goal ultimately, of course, is to make sure that we are creating change across our entire country.
Agreed.
So without giving you everything, I will say that there have been states who have played around with what healthcare universally looks like just for their state. And then also there have been states that have done this with the child care system. There's an argument also to be made that maybe child care and healthcare should be merged together. I don't know if I'm on that line of conversation quite yet. Maybe someone can talk me into it, but I'm not there yet. And so I'll point to Arizona when you talk about what they've done with their universal child care program. And what they've proved is that, because of course the question always comes up, well, how are you going to pay for it? And so what they've proved to us and the rest of the country is that if you make this a legislative priority, then it goes directly at the top of the budget for your governor. And so I believe if we make that a legislative priority for our president to say Congress and the Senate has said it's a priority to make sure that everyone in this country, whether you're a citizen or not, has the right to health care because they are a human being, then that becomes a presidential priority and it becomes part of the budget moving forward.
Okay. All right. That makes me go down a whole nother rabbit hole, but I'm sure Miss Ayana probably on the same page as me. So I'm going to let her go ahead and pose her question. Hello, Miss Ayana. How are you doing today?
Hello, Miss Melanie. I'm well. I hope
Happy
you're
Black
well as
History
well.
Month.
Happy Black History Month. Negro History Month. Hello.
Okay.
I'm a clown. Forgive me.
Oh, she is.
Anyway, Mr. You know what, Buttermill? Mr. Julian. Mr. Julian Beaudion. I understand at the Senate level, right? Sometimes senators feel kind of limited in what they could do at the local level. I mean, do for local level issues like property taxes, hospital closures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Congress, holding the power of the purse, can put requirements on the agencies implementing or taking the money, right? Say, for instance, they give money to support state, local law enforcement, right? So they can require that these agencies keep track of how many people are unalived in police custody. They don't do that. That would help correct an injustice at the state and local level, right? What is one injustice you believe you can correct as a U.S. Senator?
Oh, listen, I love that question. You made me pause and think for a little bit. There are several injustices happening right now in law enforcement, but I like the first part of your question, so I might. And if this does not directly answer your question, you call me out, please. Um, but I like the first part of your question, talking about the healthcare system, because I know here in South Dakota, we have experienced a dramatic impact with the closure of rural healthcare systems.
Yes.
So this is a crazy statistic, and I hate kind of talking through numbers because sometimes you lose folks, but I
We
promise
love
you, just stay
numbers.
with me.
We love numbers.
Stay with me, and you'll get there. So during COVID, we know the impact of that. Our country went through in COVID. We had about 10% of our rural healthcare systems closed down.
Oh
However,
wow.
since the Trump administration took power, not only have we seen an increase in rural hospitals and clinics closing down up to 15%,
Oh.
we have now seen our rural communities lose every single OBGYN clinic in this state.
Oh my
You can
God.
only go to an OBGYN clinic in an urban area, an urban center.
Oh wow.
And so what that means for places like Pine Ridge, the poorest community in the country that we just talked about, is that they have to travel 3 hours to get to an OBGYN clinic.
Mm.
That's insane, and that's an injustice in and of
That
itself.
is an
And so what I'd
injustice.
like to
That's a
see,
medical injustice. Yes.
absolutely. So what I'd like to see is I'd like to see a reinvestment in what our medical system looks like beyond healthcare. And so I know the impact right now from the Trump administration. They've given dollars to directly impact what rural medicine looks like. I don't think it goes far enough. I believe I'm not going to quote the number because I know I'm going to get
I
it
got the
wrong. But we
number.
got several.
I got the
What is
number.
the number?
So, South Dakota was given $189.5 million. Now, they asked for 212, but they got 189.5 million for their rural health transformation program.
Yes. So let me give you some insight on that. This is inside baseball that you're about to get. Our governor, when he proposed the budget, and you're talking now what senators can do on a state level, I think we can hold folks like the governor accountable to telling the public the truth. Because our governor actually came out and said, hey, we only asked for 140 million and we got more than what we asked for. Well, we know that not to be the truth. We got less than the amount we asked for. And in addition to that, when Biden actually gave infrastructure money to the states to include rural healthcare development, our former governor, Kristi Noem, sent it back. So not
Oh.
only did we get less money
I'm gonna get to
than we
her
asked
too.
for this time, we were shorted from the infrastructure funding,
Oh my
right? So
God.
we're 50-60 million dollars behind when you talk about rural healthcare and infrastructure.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a ton of money, especially for a state that has less than 1 million people in it.
Oh my gosh. I am so sorry that is happening. That's
And see,
that's
you know what? You
insane.
always coming to steal my thunder, man. My question
I'm
was,
sorry.
how can you and the Senate ensure that this money will be spent to better South Dakota healthcare?
Okay,
Okay.
but that's yes. Yes.
I
And
told you
it's
she was on the same wavelength.
listen, yes, absolutely 100%. And you can answer that and you could drop me. But thank you so much for answering that question. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Thank
Absolutely. And
you.
thank you for the question. I appreciate you.
All right. See, y'all see how easy that was? Just come on up, ask your question. But yeah, so how are you gonna make sure that this money, y'all, now that y'all got it, whether it was more than what they needed or less than what they asked for, how are you gonna make sure that they use this money as they supposed to?
Yeah, so one key important committee that happens in the state legislature is the Appropriations Committee. And so people just don't realize how important it is when it comes to appropriating the right dollars to the right places at the right time. And right now, I think the only thing that I can do, of course, as a candidate, is to show up and use my voice. But when when you are a United States Senator, you have the opportunity to have say in who chairs the appropriation committee for the
Mm-hmm.
state.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, our legislature only has 7 or 8 Democrats in the entire legislature, so we don't hold or wield a lot of power. However, the only economist that's in our legislature is a Democrat, and he currently serves as the vice chair of the appropriations committee. The only reason why he's vice chair is because Mike Rounds and John Thune has designated someone else under the governor to say we prefer this person. Well, that person, of course, has the final say on what happens in the appropriations committee. And so we don't have a say on where those dollars go. But if, in fact, we rebalance the power to where we have one Democratic senator and one Republican senator, which is what I'm really fighting to do,
Right.
then we now have a balance of senatorial power in the state of South Dakota, one of the reddest states in our country, to where we can still appropriate the funds to make sure that they're being put in the right places, again, at the right time, in the hands of the right people.
Absolutely. So, are you running to unseat Thune or it's Rounds?
It's Mike Rounds.
Mike
It's
Rounds.
Mike Rounds.
Okay.
But at the same time, let's listen. I'm gonna go back to my roots. At the same time, let's not get it twisted. John Thune needs to be held accountable too.
He got to go.
He has to go.
So, in case y'all did not know, one of the senators of his state is the current majority leader of the Senate. John Thune is his senator right now, and he's trying to go and sit with him in Washington. So, if you know somebody in South Dakota, tell them to listen up. Right now, we have Miss Gwen up here, and I'm gonna let Miss Gwen answer a question, but let me get this one in real quick because a lot of times we talk about the problems, and we were talking about healthcare earlier, but when I did my research, it actually says South Dakota is recognized as the 3rd best state for overall healthcare in 2024. Okay. Partly due to being the 8th lowest out-of-pocket medical spending in the USA. So my question was, how would you bring that success to the Senate to help other states struggling with their healthcare systems? So I'm not sure if you feel super familiar with it, but like I said, I wanted to bring some good news because we always talking about what states are doing bad when somebody got to be doing something good, right?
That's for sure. Healthcare is in urban areas is one of the things that we do very well. I'm going to tie that into education though, because it's a little known fact about the education system in South Dakota. So T. Denny Sanford is a philanthropist here in South Dakota, and one of the hospital systems across the state is actually named after him. It's Sanford Hospital. There is also, again, very little known, an educational curriculum that is expanding across the country. It's called the California curriculum that T. Denny Sanford has also invested in, put his time, effort, and money into. And that actually started right here in South Dakota. And what that does is it has a priority in our healthcare system to bring forth folks who are in not from high school level, but middle school, starting in middle schools, middle school students to start job shadowing, to start making visits to colleges early, and to start really planning what a career in healthcare looks like. So when they actually get to college, they're better prepared because they've already done things in that California curriculum, if you will. And so what that allows folks to do is just it levels up what a mentor system looks like, to say, I'm not just shadowing someone, I'm specifically learning from them because this is my goal in life. And I've been learning how to do this in my own community. So someone in Sioux Falls, for example, can, be mentored at the large hospital here of Sanford, but then someone in a place like Kennebec, South Dakota, which has a population of less than 1,000 people, but still has a small clinic that's open, they can also do the same thing. And so taking care of those farmers looks vastly different than what it would be of taking care of, Sioux Falls, a population of close to 400,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just do things differently here. And for all of the faults that Republicans have, I will say that's not one of them. One of the things that I always tell I tell my daughters this all the time. I'm a girl dad. I have three girls,
Mhm.
and they look at TV and they just see the things that they disagree with Trump and everyone else. And I tell them to live in reality, because what you see on TV, yes, a lot of that is what's really happening across the country. But name one person you've ever come in contact with that you've disagreed with 100% of the things that they've either said or done. Our reality is that, yes, it looks like we might disagree with everything he says because he's so polarizing, but there are also some things that Republicans do well. And we have to be able to take a step back as Democrats to say, we don't do it all perfectly either. How can we learn from each other to make sure that the system is working at its best? And that's one of those things.
I 100% agree with that. So maybe Miss Gwen might have a different opinion. I'm not sure, but we about to find out. How you doing today, Miss Gwen?
I am blessed in yourself.
I'm doing
Also,
pretty
you,
well.
Mr. Julian, pronounce your last name. I don't want to get it incorrect.
Come,
It-
Let me tell you why
well,
I'm saying that to her, because she is a Louisiana native. What's that name, Miss Gwen?
Booyah?
uh-oh.
Am
Uh-oh.
I pronouncing it
Now,
right?
now, Miss Gwen, you are not, but I'm going to be really polite because that's my mom's name. It's Gwen, and it's the last name is pronounced Baudouin.
Baudouin. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. So
Okay.
I appreciate you trying, though.
Hey, I was taught if you don't know, ask first before you make an A out of
Exactly.
yourself.
Exactly.
So that's why I asked
Absolutely.
first.
You did. I'm just messing with you, but go ahead.
Uh, First of all, how are you all doing today?
It's Black
And
History Month.
Doing great.
yes, it is Black History. Well, it's Black History Day to me because every day is Black History for me. Every day it is.
That's right.
Um, First of all, thank you for your service and what you are attempting to do. And I pray many blessings and success over your career. But my question is, what could be done once the administration, and I'm speaking in the present tense as if it has already happened, when the administration shifts and it turns back over to the hands of uh, the Democrats to reverse some of this nonsense he's putting in place, if it can be.
Well, there actually are things within the what I call the big disastrous bill that is actually set not to take place until after the election in November. And so those things could actually be reversed if we can take control of that. But we have to take control of the House and the Senate in order to do it. So we have a fight on our hands. Absolutely. Many folks say it's an uphill battle, but I've never met a hill that I couldn't climb. And
I
so we
know
have
that's
to
right.
make sure we have to make sure that we are pinpointing some of those things that's within our grasp to be able to reverse, because what that does is it removes the power directly from the presidential administration and puts it right back into the hands of Congress. And as someone said earlier, Congress is who holds the power of the purse. And
Right.
so if we are able to reverse some of those things from the big disastrous bill, it goes back to what I was saying about the appropriations committee. There's also federal appropriations. Now there's money sitting somewhere that we can put in the hands of the right people. We have to also make sure that the people on the appropriations committee are the right people as well. So there's levels to it. Of course, there's I would say steps to things that have to be done first and second and third and so on. But I don't want to make it seem like all is a lost cause. That's the thing that's really tangible and what's really right in front of us. I'll also be just completely honest with you and transparent. I am just as scared as everyone else that we might not have an election, and so I'm fighting right now again, like what's in front of me. I'm fighting to make sure that we have an election to be able to even talk about some of those things come November. And so democracy is really we're losing it. I don't know if you saw yesterday. but President Trump wants to federalize or nationalize what voting looks like across all 50 states. And so he is really trying to control what voter registration looks like, who can go to the poll, if they can vote when they're at the poll, all of those things. And so those are the things that I think we have to be fighting for right now, just to make sure that we don't lose our power of our voice and our vote.
I can agree. I can agree.
Absolutely.
Um, with that, all that being said, um, praying that we do take control of the House. If something comes into play where we happen to get control before the election, is that possible then? Because right now, what is it? The representatives? I mean, one of them Texas just took another Democrat seat,
Mm-hmm.
and
But they took a
it brought
Republican seat. A Democrat took a Republican seat.
yeah,
Yes.
the Democrat took a Republican seat, which brought the narrowization down a little. And are there any more elections that's coming up before the primaries? I mean, the
Hmm.
midterms.
So on the House side, yes. On the Senate side, no. So November, of course, is the general election for most Senate races. I will
Right.
also just point out just kind of this kind of a key point, really a key point, is that anytime something is reversed in Congress, it requires 2/3 of a vote, and so we can't just take back the majority. We have to have a sweeping edge on the House side in order to have a fighting chance. Now on the Senate side it's a little bit different because there's that balance of power where 2 representatives from the Senate from each state can vote. But the House is quite a bit different because it's drawn up by congressional districts, and so that power is quite a bit different. We have to not just win these elections. We have to have a sweeping win across the entire country to make change.
Absolutely. 100% agree.
Mm.
All right,
Well,
Miss Gwen.
I do thank you for again, and like I said, I'm praying and I'm trusting God for your much success and all of our success at this point because this man is really doing a lot to disenfranchise us, keep us at the bottom of the totem pole, and just make it where like you say, he tried to stay in power. But
Absolutely.
I trust and believe God. If God could do away with Pharaoh, I know he could do away with him.
I know that's right.
I know
Thank
that's
you.
right.
Thank you for coming up, Miss
Absolutely.
Gwen.
Thank you, Ms. Gwen.
Yeah. So thank
Oh, I thought she was. Sorry, Miss Gwen. I thought you was finished. I'm so sorry. Well, let's talk about some education. Okay. So tribal schools and Native students face unique challenges in South Dakota. How would you work with tribal nations and the federal government to improve funding, facilities, and educational outcomes for Native students?
So that's a tough one in this state because the majority of native kids that are in school actually go to public school outside of reservations. And so I think the biggest impact on Native kids actually come from public schools here in what I would call urban centers or urban areas outside of federal land. Um, Now, what that does mean though is maybe there's less of an impact that those direct federal dollars have on Native kids. But if we look at the platform of my opponent, in Mike Rounds, he is actually the author of dismantling the Department of Education. And so that's one of the things that we certainly have to fight against. I'm going to point out 2 states to us. If we look at Maryland and Illinois, we have seen a very intentional effort to reinvest in the Department of Education. And it's led to 2 things. And it's 2 things that we all want. We want to live in safer, more educated communities. And what they have seen is an increase in graduation rates in high school. They've also seen a drastic decrease in crime rates. As a matter of fact, Maryland has seen the fastest drop in crime rates over the last 5 years by cutting that by 50%. That's huge.
Yeah.
So the proof is in the pudding. we have to reinvest in kids and reinvest in the Department of Education so that we're saving all of these children and not cutting that and bringing it back to what he proposes is to bring it back and put it into the state's hands. In addition to what he's doing, I think what's lost in our state is that if our state gets a hold of it, we already have issues making sure that our kids can afford to eat at the end of the school year. There are private institutions that have to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars just to cover the cost of kids to eat in our schools. So we can't afford it. We simply cannot afford it. And especially if we're going to have a state that sends back federal infrastructure dollars, because education is a drastic part of our infrastructure here in our state. So a vital part, excuse me, is what I should say.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you put it to that you fix the structure of a building. If that ain't infrastructure, I don't know what it is. If, schools in themselves are not part of infrastructure, I don't know what is. Even if you just put daggone light posts outside of that school, you use the infrastructure dollars to better. Like, really?
Absolutely.
All right. Speaking of money, many South Dakota students leave the state for college, right? And don't always return. What would you do to make South Dakota's universities and technical schools more affordable and connected to good paying jobs so that young people choose to stay and build their futures there?
So if I had a magic wand, I would just say make it warmer, and people would stay. Unfortunately, you can't do that. I will. This is one of those things where I have to go back to say, here's what I believe Republicans have done well. We have actually really slowed the process of kids leaving after high school or after college to go somewhere else. For everything that I disagree with about Kristi Noem and what she stands for, she actually implemented a state government program that allowed kids to go from high school to college and get tuition reimbursement without having to be a state employee. And so we actually saw a big jump. Now, it comes with the contract. You have to stay and you have to work in South Dakota for 3 years. And then, of course, you can, you have your tuition reimbursed after the 3 years of being employed here. But what we've seen happen is we've seen a 75% increase from our state-funded institutions of kids staying right here in South Dakota. Now, we don't have many state-funded institutions. It's probably 5 or 6 total. Right. But still, a 75% increase is huge when you come, again, touching on a state that has less of a population than 1 million people. So yes. I would continue to do things just like that.
Now, actually have, 924,609. That's
well, you ain't have to put us on blast like that now.
Y'all just under, okay?
It's just under.
Again, if anyone has any questions, whether it's about education, the economy, healthcare, or the justice system, request up, pose your questions, or anything in between. And I'm sure Julian would be so happy to answer that for you. If not, you can put it right in the chat and I will pose that question to him. So while y'all determine whether or not you're going to ask a question or not, I'm going to go into my second rapid fire questions. And these are really fun, so I can't wait.
Glamping, be kind to me.
Glamping or camping?
Oh, glamping.
I did not expect you to say glamping. Okay.
Yeah, I need some heat. I need a TV. Give me some glamping.
A sports car or pickup truck?
Pickup truck.
Okay. Burgers or tacos?
Tacos.
Okay. Beer or wine?
Wine.
All right. The book or the movie?
The book.
Okay.
Always.
Would you rather success or happiness?
Happiness.
Okay. Would you rather a time machine or that magic wand?
A magic wand.
Okay. Android or iPhone?
iPhone.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
No. Which would you not like to see coming? A bison or a coyote?
a bison.
Okay. What is the highest speed you ever clocked?
Ooh, okay. I can't answer that question.
Really?
I cannot answer that question. I would tell you it's over 140 miles an hour, but I cannot answer it
Really?
directly.
Who-
Yes.
You better have arrested them. All right. Cause ain't no need for nobody driving over 140 miles an hour. Alice, was that you?
That's right.
That's one of our OVC people. She be flying. I'm Alice. Make sure that wasn't you. If you could do one extreme thing, what would it be? Like a bungee jumping, skydiving thing. You could do one extreme thing.
Probably skydiving. I'm afraid of heights, and so I wanna face that fear.
Okay. Last one. If you had to pick a South Dakota event, are you going to see Mount Rushmore or going to Sturgis Bike Week?
It's Black History Month. I'm gonna say neither.
Good. Ding, 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 ding. He wears shiny pants. All right. So we're gonna end this with some state issues, right? So Surrey County's commissioner, Caleb Shepard, says that he will welcome more data centers with open arms. However, the current data systems that you already have there are wreaking havoc on the energy supply. What policies will you support in Congress to regulate this data system thing that's happening?
Water conservation. I think that has to be the biggest thing. So you talk about, and I'm talking just specifically the impact that it has on South Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
Water has to be regulated for these data centers to be successful in rural communities because, again, our farmers use a lot of water already. And so I'd like to see regulation on what type of water can be supplied for these data centers. They put off a lot of heat, and it takes a lot of water to be able to cool them down. There is a really large funding or supply of non-consumable water in South Dakota, but there's no regulations on it, particularly when it comes to data centers. And so if we're going to be using water to cool these data centers down to preserve the energy, I think there has to be regulations on the non-consumable water so that we're not taking these water, the water rights away from both the indigenous lands and also our farmers, because then that's bordering eminent domain discussions, and we're not having that in South Dakota.
I know that's right. South Dakota Congress is currently considering legislation that would allow someone to challenge someone else's vote if they suspect that that person isn't an American citizen. How do you think this will impact the voting process if implemented?
I don't think it will. I think South Dakota's legislature is just making noise because there's already laws on the books that allows us as citizens to challenge a vote if we believe it's a non-citizen. It's the same law that's on the book that allows another candidate to challenge petitions, if you will, if they believe a signature is invalid. Those things are already in place. What we see right now is just, Republicans being Republicans and trying to make noise about things that either are already regulated or really is not an issue, and it's a non-factor.
Okay, he said it's a non-factor, that it's just noise. Last question in this category. Your former governor, Kristi Noem.
I lost your audio again.
Uh-oh. What happened?
Let's try the same thing since it worked.
Hold on. Let me do that. Can you hear me
There you
now?
go. I got you now.
Okay. I was doing my little TikTok tricks. I've been doing this for a while now. Okay. Your former governor, Kristi Noem, is currently head of Homeland Security and has been facing scrutiny for her conduct in this role. Are the people of South Dakota approving of her actions?
Widely, yes and no. there are still a lot of folks who have not been directly impacted by those actions. And it's very unfortunate for me to say, but a lot of the times when, when you're just living life and things are not directly impacting you and it's touching someone else, you don't really care about what's happening over there, right? Because what we hear a lot is, oh, that's over in Minnesota. Although I live 15 minutes away from the Minnesota state border, that's that's over there. That's not South Dakota's issue. But what I will say, and this is why I said widely yes or no, is because it's starting to touch our farming communities here. Our dairy farms on the east side of the state are really being impacted. As a matter of fact, we have had to close either 2 or 3 of those dairy farms completely because of immigration raids or what they classify as audits, to where they go in and they check out, someone's visa. And we've had just families not report back to work. And so if there's no one to work, then there's no business to run. And so these dairy farms are starting to be impacted. And if we continue to see that trend on all other farms, the beef farms, the pig farms, the corn farms, soybeans, all of that production is going to see a drastic decrease. And it's all going to be because of the policies of Kristi Noem.
Yeah. But I'm also hearing that indigenous people are getting caught up and swept up in this too, because you're going off of what looks are, and people tend to think indigenous people look Hispanic. So a lot of them are getting caught up in this too. So, but have you not seen that type of impact in South Dakota yet?
Yeah, actually, so the indigenous folks who were detained out in Minnesota were from South Dakota. They were from the Oglala Sioux tribe here in South Dakota. So we've certainly seen that impact, to the point where we have had to, again, for the second time, ban Kristi Noem and federal agents from reservations. And so I don't know if you remember, several years back when she was governor, all 9 of our federally recognized tribes banned her from federal land. And so that process is now starting again, as she is the secretary of DHS.
As they should. And I said that was the last one, but I had one more. It was on the next page. But refugee resettlement has been important for Sioux Falls. I said
Yes.
okay, and other communities. But it also brings challenges with housing, schools, and public services. What role should the federal government play in helping local communities manage growth?
I think we have to first address the issue of access to those who are resettling or those refugees here in South Dakota. And what I mean by access is kind of what you alluded to earlier in your rapid fire question. Do we give folks the opportunity to become citizens first? And how fast do we do that? So LSS, Lutheran Social Services, is the organization that's really heading up resettlement in South Dakota, but particularly Sioux Falls. And so what they see is they get federal funding to resettle the individual, but they don't get federal funding for housing. And so they have to partner with private entities or private construction companies or builders to say, listen, we have X amount of people coming in. I need you to build this, or I need you to open up more space. And so what we have seen is that those builders apply for federal dollars. They build a new structure, but they resettle the individuals in the old structures. So they're just shifting people out. Right. And so the folks that are resettling in South Dakota are not moving into situations that are suitable for them. Sometimes they have plumbing issues. They have electrical issues. They're not the safest neighborhoods. And so I think that we have to see federal investment in those construction companies, but also making sure that there's regulations around them to say it's a requirement that you build this specifically for those who are being resettled in South Dakota. They do that with every other grant that they write. They should be able to do that with resettlement, but they don't.
Agreed. Wow. Learn something new every day. Miss Gwen, you had another question for Julian?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Julian, are you from Louisiana or are you from New Orleans?
No, I'm from Louisiana. Listen, I'm glad you clarified that. Everybody think New Orleans is Louisiana. Listen, New Orleans is the tourist part. I'm from Alexandria, Louisiana. We are the heart of the
that
state.
is.
Now she grew up in New Orleans. I lived in Baton Rouge for about 15 years.
My wife went to Southern.
Yeah, I went to Southern. That's how I got there. I went to Southern.
Hey.
But I
OJ.
wanted to go to Grambling, but don't tell nobody. Go
No,
ahead. Go
no. Listen,
ahead.
you can't tell nobody
But
that.
I quickly got rid of that fantasy. I did. I quickly
Okay.
got rid
All
of that
right.
fantasy. But what you had to
But
ask him, Miss Gwen?
my question is, have you heard about what they're doing to combat ICE down in New Orleans?
Mm. Mm-mm.
No, I have not. I know that they have a new mayor who is not a fan of ICE and the way things are happening, but I have not been able to follow the situation
I'm
down
not
there.
talking about the mayor. I'm talking about the citizens. I saw a
Oh,
video, and I'm gonna send it to you. They're doing what they did to Trump and Kansas City's
Football
what
game when they had Super
yeah, when
Bowl.
they played the Super Bowl in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And you seen them? They had their voodoo dolls and they was putting the pins in them.
I did. I did.
Well, the video is out there, and I'm gonna send it to you all.
Okay,
They are making voodoo dolls and dressing them up like ICE agents and putting them all around town.
that is
Oh, okay.
hilarious. Oh my goodness. So that's the answer right there, Julian. We got our
That's it.
answer. We just gonna get us a
I
voodoo
guess
doll and
so.
be
I
done with
guess
this
so.
thing.
It worked on Trump. It made Trump leave, and it made the Chiefs lose.
Okay.
Hey, I said, why
Well,
not?
Why not? Miss Gwen, did you have a question?
No, I just had to
No.
bring that up. I just wanted to bring that mention up when you said he's from Louisiana, but I just had to mention that because I thought that was so uh, uh, uh,
That's hilarious.
awesome. It
Yeah.
is hilarious, but they're serious. They told him, "Come here if you want. Come
All
here if
right.
you want.
that's right.
You're gonna get it because we believe in our voodoo dolls."
That's correct. All right. Thank you, Miss Gwen. We about to wrap
Okay.
this up. I appreciate you sitting in the comments, listening. This has been an awesome live with Julian, and we like I said, we about to wrap this up. So I got just a couple of closing questions for you. Um, South Dakota is a state with deep rural roots, strong tribal nations, and growing cities. What does success look like for you in representing all parts of the state over the next few years?
So I think first it looks like going back to Democratic roots in the state, like Tom Daschle, for example, who was the former Senate Minority Leader from South Dakota,
Mhm.
and he was the last Senate candidate at all to visit all 66 counties. And so we've made it a goal to not just visit all 66 counties and have conversations with folks there, but also we've made it a goal to have anywhere from 20 to 25 town halls across the state, which has not been done at all by any Senate candidates, congressional candidates, or even gubernatorial candidates. And so what we've been hearing at those town halls, I'm actually 15 town halls in.
Mhm.
And so what we've been hearing at those town halls is that a lot of those communities have just felt forgotten. The majority of our farmers, I've learned, used to be Democrats, used to consistently vote for Democrats. But after Tom Daschle, Democrats forgot about them. So they switched into voting for Republicans.
Mhm.
Folks believe here that we are a really strong red state just because of our, current representation. But we can go back 15 years to remember when we had two senators that were Democrats and our congressional representation was a Democrat. And so we're not as strong red of a state as people believe. We do have access to those folks who believe that democratic policies are the best things for them. As long as we can get back to recognizing that their voice also matters, then I think that we can easily turn South Dakota purple.
All right. My last question is how hopeful, on a scale of 1 to 10, are you that we can truly flip this Congress? I'm not just talking about the House. I need us to
Yeah.
flip the whole Congress. If this is the best time ever in history to truly revamp the whole Congress. I mean, there are some senators that's going to be there. They're not up yet, but with other people in place, their influence might not have such power. So where are you on that scale, 1 to 10? 1 being that we not changing nothing, and 10 is we gonna have supermajority in both.
I super majority of both. I'm not gonna give it a 10, but I give it an 8.
Okay.
And my reason for saying that is because I'm beyond hoping for stuff. I think actions speak louder than words. And as much as I, love former President Barack Obama and many of the things that he stood for, I think we are beyond having the audacity to hope, as he referred to in his book. I want people to refer to us in this campaign as the audacity to act. Um, Talking about Black History Month, I'm the first Black federal candidate to run a statewide race in this state. And so folks are not used to seeing this, right? So I can't just go and use these words and try to inspire people. I have to show people that I'm beyond, inspiring them just to hope that we can change. I have to prove to them that we are acting for change right now before we get into that Senate seat. And so if I have to do that for this seat, I encourage folks, other candidates around the entire country, to also act before they get into the seat, and that's how we actually make the change. We are far beyond hope.
Baby, let me tell you what. This is the audacity to act. A Black man running for Senate in South Dakota. You can't have no more audacity than that, y'all. I'm trying to tell you what. Julian, I have absolutely enjoyed this conversation. I know you are going to knock their socks off. We hear a lot from our YT counterparts that they don't see color. Well, let's hope
Yeah.
they don't, okay? Let's hope
Well,
they don't.
no, let's hope they see my color. Let's hope they see my color.
Well, no,
Let's hope they,
I mean that in a way that they hear you and not see you. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
And then
Absolutely.
just say, oh, he Black, and then leave. I want them to hear you. That's what
Yeah,
I mean
absolutely.
by I hope they don't see color. But I
can
also hear
appreciate
what they're saying.
Yeah,
Let them know a Black man did this. Absolutely.
absolutely.
But what I meant was I want them to be able to hear you and not just say, oh, that's a Black man, so I ain't even listening.
Yeah,
That's what I
absolutely.
meant. All right. So everyone, Julian's going to tell us how we can get in touch with him, how we can follow him, how we can support him, and when his primary is.
So yes, primary. I see a question in there. The primary is on June 9th. However, I am the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party, so I don't have a primary. We are right now in petition season, and there's no other one who has filed for candidacy. So we've gotten rid of, so to speak, any potential competitors. So my general election is Super Tuesday in November. To support me, you can go on any of the social media platforms. I would really appreciate just continuing to share the message that we've been able to put out. I also just kind of give this number real quick. It doesn't take a lot of money to win a Senate race in South Dakota. Texas is raising tens of millions of dollars. We need $2 to $3 million to be able to win this race. And so to really, I don't know how many people's watching right now, but if everyone who heard this voice gave $1, we will be making so much headway in our campaign, and we'd be able to hire a full-time staff. We'd be able to get our message across nationwide so that we can continue to build our platform, and we can make sure that we're passing common sense policies when we get to Washington, D.C. So please, please, please support the campaign as much as you possibly can, but even more than that, share, because there's no better way to spread the message than word of mouth.
Now I know my people out there. We could do better than $1. 5, 10. Y'all give people in this daggone TikTok hundreds of dollars a day. Y'all could do better than $1. I already know. So we're gonna say less on that.
Well, listen. What was the pastor that said, if you can give 3,500, I'll be waiting at the back door. So you just
Exactly.
but give what you can. I know times are tough, so we appreciate it.
Exactly. Well, let me remind you, Julian, that I was going to remind you who we are, but before I remind you who we are, let me tell you about what we got coming up next. So in just about an hour, everyone, we will be having a celebration. Okay. And I want you all to come back at 8:30 sharp. We got something in store. We got a big surprise happening. And then right after that, we will be having our next town hall, which will be for Maria Flores, who is running for Texas. Hold on. I gotta make sure I get my information. She is running for Arizona's 8th district. Arizona's 8th congressional district. So we will be having a town hall with her at 9:00. So if you can make it to that, more importantly, I would like for you to make it to our 8:30 celebration that we're having. So I want y'all to come back at 8:30. Please do not miss this. You will not want to miss this. Additionally, Julian, every other Sunday we have a roundtable. And that is when we get all of our candidates that we've had town halls with, even some who we haven't had any yet, but they're booked to have one. They might come to the round table. It's about 5 to 6 candidates all sitting around having conversation, already coming up with the plan before we get. Didn't you just say that? Before we get in that seat, we already gonna know what we need to do. So we would love look at check your emails. Look for your invite for that. Our next one is on the 15th. But like I said, we do them every 2 weeks. So, and we might be going up to every week because we absolutely love them. But at this moment, it's every 2 weeks, and we will be inviting you to that. So again, if you please come back, if you're in here right now at 8:30, we will be on sharp 8:30 sharp, and you will not be disappointed in what we have in store. Let me remind everyone, we are OVC. Our vote counts, a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity like Mr. Julian over here, and ensure every voice is heard. Through education, outreach, accountability, and action, we're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. So make sure you keep joining us, because your vote is your power. I thank you all. Thank you, Julian. You make sure you have a good night.
Thank you.
All right.